creating a category that didn't exist.
That became the world's first AI designed slide shoe, and we launched it and it became a huge story. It was on the front page of USA Today and lots of different places. And now creators are getting their own shoes. We've got about 45 different brands and creators we're working with today, launching a bunch soon. And now we sell shoes where we have zero wholesale in retail because they're all printed on demand and zero inventory. When that's one of the biggest problems is how many sizes you need. You can't just do shoes, small, medium, and large like a hoodie.
Most of the successful entrepreneurs have a backer. It sounds like you kind of had that same experience with Joe Foster as co-founder of Reebok.
There's very few people in the world that have ever done something like that. So having him on was incredibly valuable.
It's really about the people that you surround yourself with.
Give customers what they call the best fitting experience possible.
Step into the future. Oh, I know what these are. It's a dream to put on your feet. These are gonna feel a lot better walking around. Like that bounce, that spring, you just don't get with any other shoe.
Hi everyone, welcome to the show. Today we have Ben Weiss, who's the founder and CEO of Syntilay, an AI-powered footwear company pioneering the use of generative AI in the product design for footwear category. With a background in emerging technology and entrepreneurship, Ben set out to rethink how shoes are created, shifting from traditional sketch-based processes to AI-driven data-informed decisioning. Ben's creating an entirely new category in shoe design. Ben's journey also led him to connect with Joe Foster, the co-founder of Reebok, turning a cold call into a mentorship and collaboration that bridged his legacy with the sneaker culture and the next wave of AI-powered footwear. If you're interested in innovation and entrepreneurship, today's episode is a masterclass in entrepreneurship and ways the next generation of entrepreneurs are harnessing the power of AI to build something new and better. So let's go. So let's jump right in. All right, Ben Weiss, founder and CEO of Syntilay. Hope I pronounced that right. It's great to have you. I know you're busy signing a lot of brand deals with footwear, but I can't wait to get into it because you got a very unique product, unique story. And I'm sure the audience in like 20 countries would love to hear what you're doing, right? With your product and how you came about. So first of all, how are you doing? Welcome. How's business going? And just generally tell us a bit about you, right? How did Ben Weiss get into AI tech for footwear?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Jerome. It's great to be here. I started in this space because I believe that there's a really significant opportunity to back the previously unbacked with their own signature shoes, the content creators. Young people today, if you ask them, who do you want to be when you grow up? They say, I want to be a YouTuber, a Twitch streamer, a TikTok influencer. They used to say the athlete. Now, of course, a lot of them still do, but the most popular thing today is a social media star. And we wanted to enable a younger generation to feel like you can walk in anybody's shoes, whether your favorite individual who you want to be like is a DJ, a business person, a lifestyle personality on Instagram. So our goal was let's build the content creator shoe brand. And we needed to figure out a way to do that so we can let people walk in anyone's shoes that they like. And we realized the best way was AI helping to design shoes because we would be able to cut down on the design time frame, and then 3D printing because generally with footwear you need molds for size 5 to 13. They're expensive. They're a couple $1,000s a mold. You got to do that for every full size, every half size, and it adds up. And then you've got to commit to minimum order requirements. You have to order hundreds of pairs, thousands of pairs per mold you open up. And so with printing, we can get rid of molds and we can print on demand. So with the least amount of waste. And when somebody orders, just made to order. And this system became the world's first AI designed slide shoe. And we launched it and it became a huge story. It was on the front page of USA Today and lots of different places. And now creators are getting their own shoes. We've got about 45 different brands and creators we're working with today and launching a bunch soon.
That's awesome. Talk about an early mover advantage or creating a category that didn't exist. It's terrific that you looked around and the power of the influencers today is pretty massive, right? And they've kind of disrupted the whole traditional advertising model pretty significantly. Um, and it's quite novel that, shoes are really a powerful way of branding yourself. And how did you make that connection? Like, was there a moment where you went, hey, personalized shoes can really help these influencers really, promote their brand better?
Yeah, well, you look at kind of the average influencer. Let's just say somebody who's, doing really well. Let's take Mr. Beast, for example, actually. So you look at Mr. Beast and he's got a bunch of businesses he runs, but he has a huge merch business. He sells, hats, shirts, shorts, hoodies, everything under the sun in the merch category. But generally, what do big influencers not sell of their own products? Usually footwear. He has no footwear. You look at all the other top influencers, they've got every single merch item under the sun, but generally not shoes. And there's a couple other categories. Glasses is one as well. Many of them don't have, but shoes is a very big standout category. And so the question just became about why don't they have, and how do we give them their own shoes? And we realized there had to be a different system to do that. And like you mentioned, Jerome, influencers are very powerful today. And there's been a couple of different waves with recognizing the power of influencers. The first wave was, oh my gosh, these people have a lot of eyeballs on them. Let's use them for placement of product. And then there was, UGC and focusing on them making content and you running ads behind it. But we think the third big wave is really embracing them for their own products, their own signature products, letting them design something. They've got audiences that are incredible, and the audience they have is their product. It's different from the athlete, where the athlete, which they have great audiences as well, is a derivative of their performance in a sport. With the influencer, the audience is their product. They consistently building the audience. The audience is who they are. And so we found that connection to be very important for signature products and signature shoes specifically, and found it to be, a white space market. The founder of Reebok's on my board and is, backing me in this, Joe Foster. And, when he built Reebok, his big, idea was, I need to find the white space. I can't compete with the traditional brands and their, unique their avenues that they're in. I need to find a white space avenue. And Reebok became $1 billion in sales brand by leading the aerobics wave with women's soft leather, yoga shoes. That was white space. No big brand found that to be, valuable until Reebok did it, and then everybody else had to have an aerobics, type product. And so this is a new white space today. If athletes can sell shoes because they have lifestyle appeal when the majority of the market's the lifestyle market, then creators, we believe, can sell lifestyle shoes when they're the ones shaping lifestyle potentially the most of anybody.
Brilliant. And, I liken this to sort of the blue ocean strategy, right? Don't go where the sharks are, find the blue ocean or the white space. Now, it's a pretty bold idea because you're going up against some pretty entrenched shoe companies, potentially that just sell shoes. But you got obviously a very unique, personalized angle to it. So do you ever think about that? Like, you've got a lot of big, giants in the space, and, how are you going to outplay them with your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really view them as competitors to us because, are they really competing? Sure, they make shoes, but they don't really make creator shoes. They haven't ever done one signature shoe for creators. We're the first company that's doing that. So it's a very different avenue. The DNA of all the existing big brands today pretty much is born in, and bred in running and then moved to basketball, many of them. It's all athletics. They focus on the athlete first. When it comes time for the next big basketball player to get signed, you've got every brand in the room trying to talk to that individual. And the brand that wins the most right now has been Nike because they have the biggest checkbook. And this system has been in place for years. There hasn't really been a change to that. When the internet, came out, and eventually social media, influence has changed, and brands have recognized that there's value in that, a lot of these traditional brands, but they've never embraced it from the same kind of level of, I would say, maybe respect that they give to the athlete, and that's an entirely new market. It's not something that they're focused on now. Ultimately, they may focus on that, but our approach with the creator shoes, plus the ability for you to get your own shoe custom made to fit you that's 3D printed to you. And now we sell shoes where we have zero wholesale in retail because they're all printed on demand and zero inventory, when that's one of the biggest problems is how many sizes you need. You can't just do shoes, small, medium, and large like a hoodie, and we have a scanning system that you could just scan and then the shoes ship direct to you and it's custom made. So there's this reason to come in retail. Combine all this together and you've got an entirely different approach. It's so outside the box from the traditional guys that we're not really competing with them. We're just doing our own thing.
Amazing. So, most of the successful entrepreneurs I know often, have a backer and have find a relationship that really helps, with capital, with brand. And it sounds like you kind of had that same experience with Joe Foster as a co-founder of Reebok. Maybe tell us how that came to be and, how that's working out so far.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of people think I just had this relationship with the founder of Reebok beforehand and Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank. I didn't have it. I just cold reached out to both of them and sent them notes. And I said to Joe, I said, I really want to build the content creator shoe brand. I want to make a tech forward shoe brand. Why is it that every category in the world is getting smart, but footwear? We've got smart watches, we don't have smart shoes, and we need to get to this kind of point. And he's like, I like the idea. I'm open to talking. And then Julie organized it, his wife, and they were really receptive to the idea. And they said, "Hey, we're going to be in Fort Lauderdale shortly after." And I said, "That's great. You're right near me. I'm in Boca. I've got to spend some time with you guys in person." And wound up explaining the idea quite a lot more to them. And after that, a couple months of talking, they joined in. And shortly after, Kevin Harrington, I spent some time going back and forth with his team. I just submitted a note to them online, and they joined in as well, and some other great people. So it was just cold outreach, but I think part of it's also the persistence. Like, I wanted them on my team. I found a lot of value in having them on with me. The founder of Reebok, he took it from an idea to the best-selling shoe brand in the world at a point. He actually designed shoes that are some of the best sellers today as well. The classic, the Club C models. There's very few people in the world that have ever done something like that. So having him on was incredibly valuable, and he joined as an advisor. And I think I've probably done like 400 meetings with him since, and the lessons I've learned have been invaluable. I think they've completely changed the entire trajectory of the business.
We have over 1,000 plus entrepreneurs who watch the show, and the ability to have the courage to make a cold call or multiple cold calls, to find someone like Joe Foster to give you advice, to back you, is pretty critical. Where did you get that kind of courage, boldness to just pick up the phone and start making calls? How did you? Was there some training you had early on? Like what gave you those natural skills?
Well, Jerome, what did I have to lose, right? I could send him a note and he doesn't write back to me, and all right, that's it. And I've sent notes to people, they don't write back to me, and you just, you either sharpen up your pitch or you just, that's it. You felt better that you tried versus not trying at all. And, I didn't really have anything to lose from reaching out and seeing, what could happen. I only stood to gain. So I viewed it like that. And, I tried different people in different categories, in the business world as well, to have them join in as advisors. And some people said, no. Some people, had their own opinions on what they wanted to do, and just it didn't align with where I was at. Unfortunately, I got the right people. But sometimes when you reach out to people along the way, you never know what these relationships turn into. Like, I have somebody I tried to get on as an advisor, and we're now about to finalize a collaboration with them. So it became something different than what it was supposed to be initially, but it still is something great. So I think cold outreach is pretty underrated still. I mean, there's so much you can do with it. The social platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, wherever it is. I mean, you can really meet an incredible amount of people today. And I mean, that's how I built my own podcast too. I've had, hundreds of guests on. Howie Mandel has joined, Kevin O'Leary, all different types of people, cold outreach being the primary driver of that. I think you just have to be warm in your note and write something meaningful to people, and be sincere, and you got to be persistent, but not in a way that's too pushy. So there's definitely an art to that. And I've learned it, over time.
Awesome. So you've got this great product, very unique positioning. You've got an untapped market. So talk me through how you had those early wins. What were the signals that you got that said, I'm on to something here? Maybe your first customer, right?
Yeah. Well, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, like, how do I make this possible to back creators? And I reached out to all the top factories that all these big brands produce with around the world. Like the one that's considered number one in Vietnam today, Pao Chen. And I met with all these great designers behind some of the leading brands. And I was like, how do I take this down from 7 figures of investment in 18 months as a traditional time frame to launch a shoe to a couple of months and far less, so I could actually try, can a comedian sell a shoe? Can a UFC fighter sell a shoe? I can try things that no one's really trying. And I still couldn't get it down enough, So then my brother was like, you should try to do something with AI. And I was like, maybe that could actually optimize the design workflow and make it a lot better. And then got in touch with the right factory partner on this, which is Zellerfeld, who produces a lot of our shoes today. And a friend of mine helped, seed the factory. And he's like, you really should do something with them. And they print shoes and kind of put all the pieces together, from there. And launched it around the world's first AI design shoe. This this story, and that was just an idea I had that I thought could be a big story. Everyone's talking about AI, and we actually have a real way that AI is changing a category that you wouldn't expect would be able to be changed by AI. And everything today everyone's talking about with AI pretty much is just all around software. And it's like there's so much you can do in the physical world. You can design things entirely differently. Like our Luminous sneaker just looks very different. And so then just through cold outreach as well to media, didn't have a PR firm, just started emailing different reporters and or messaging them on social platforms. And you do that enough, with the right kind of pitch, you get somewhere, further along than where you are before. And landed 2 big pieces, landed an interview with Fox Business. They said, we'd love to cover this as an exclusive. And then one interview with Entrepreneur. And from there, USA Today did a big piece, and then it just exploded, all over.
Amazing. I'm so impressed at the run you've had, and certainly how you've harnessed the power of AI to build something quite unique. And where do you see AI going in terms of accelerating your trajectory, in terms of momentum, new innovation as it comes to footwear?
Yeah, well, AI is an incredible tool. I mean, we're trying to use it in a way to augment the designer workflow. Like, I'm not trying to replace designers. I think that there are certain tasks, like to give you an example, like we make 3D models, of a shoe. So you could spend all your time as a designer making the model by hand. That could take you a while. It could take you a couple of weeks, it depends how detailed it is. But with AI, you can take a sketch and generate a 3D model within minutes. So why spend the time as a designer even doing that yourself? So we're trying to optimize this workflow to let designers be even more creative and experiment more, not replacing them. And I'm not sure AI itself can even just design an incredible shoe on its own, yet. I mean, I'm sure we'll get there at some point. So I think it's just finding that balance in more ways we can find more efficiencies in the design process. But from a custom fit standpoint, I believe we're about to launch the biggest revolution in footwear fit in 100 years. What we did in Times Square in New York, where people walk onto a machine now, they scan their feet in person, and they get a custom printed shoe to 5,000 data points we get to your length, your width, your instep, the way your heel is shaped, the way your toes are designed. That's like the first time the orthotic has been built into the shoe and made for mass customization at a pretty affordable price, a couple $100. Actually, right now it's less than that. And Shaquille O'Neal, for example, has come in and bought 31 pairs from us, all custom made to his size 23-foot frame. So it works all different sizes, and we do it online as well with your phone camera. And so that is like, now it's like the custom suit in footwear, but available for everybody at an accessible price, I would say. And that's going to be the biggest change as we scale this to retailers around the globe in footwear fit, and could really improve a lot of people's lives. So I think there's this kind of duality in the mission here, of what we're doing that's quite exciting, backing creators and empowering people to feel like they can be like whoever they want in life, and then as well improving fit, and that's kind of the mission of the company. And I'm just trying to find the right partners, right brands, right creators to support that as we go.
That's incredible. I know most of us, if asked, would say, I just can't find the shoe with the perfect fit, right? Because it's never really, fully personalized. And, it's something that, I've never thought about, but hey, I would love to have a personalized shoe because, it's going to fit perfectly. And I think a lot of people would share that sentiment. Hey, before we wrap up, this podcast is called ChallengerX. We talk about challenges, right? Entrepreneurship is not without its its pain and challenges. Talk to me about, one or two setbacks you had early on that kind of gave you a real kick in the gut, and then you came back from it, how you came back from it, how you reflected on it and turned it around.
Yeah, I mean, every step of the way, you're always learning things. I previously was building a shoe brand with the hip hop artist Little Durk, and I learned a lot from that experience and, what to do, what not to do, and how to surround yourself with, with the right kind of people with a long-term mindset. I had some, good people that were there, and I had some people that really weren't ideal for the future of what we were building. And, I learned a lot from that experience. Um, I think that this time around when I'm building, I have just a great group of people that are really just have a long-term mindset and really genuinely care about me and what we're doing, and I care about them from a very genuine perspective as well. And I think that stuff really matters because people talk about the product, you got to have a great product. People talk about marketing, it's got to be incredible marketing. But if your team is not rock solid, you don't have this incredible foundation of people that are all just really care about the mission and all committed to that at the highest level, you really can't go anywhere. And I learned that the hard way, and now I've changed in how I do that, which is it's led to a lot more positive developments. So I think that that's one way. I think some other things. I mean, another way I would say is that we've really learned how to make product more efficiently from a cost standpoint. One of the biggest hurdles I had was getting started financially. I graduated college, just started wanting to launch businesses. Had an idea. And I mean, this idea arose, 2 or so years after I graduated college, and figuring out how to bootstrap something is not so simple. And I spent a lot of time pitching VCs, and just kind of got to the point where it was like, I'm just gonna put together what I can and put it out in the world. And maybe it's not perfect, but I'm gonna get a lot further along by trying than by just spending my time pitching, VCs all the time. And now it's very different. Now I have people that come to us and want to invest in some of them we can't do because of the momentum of it all, which is nice to see when you spend a year cold emailing VCs and nothing kind of happens. Yeah, so I would just advise any entrepreneur, like, you gotta just go for it with whatever you have, get as far as possible, and the rest is gonna figure itself out from there.
Great advice. I think some of us automatically early in our entrepreneurship journey think that VCs hold the capital and all the answers. It's really great insights that you're sharing. It's really about the people that you surround yourself with that can really get you to that first milestone, and then VCs start chasing you. Ben, this has been like a masterclass in entrepreneurship. I'm really excited about your business, Syntilay. I think it's going to be one of the most talked about brands in the coming years. So I'm looking forward to having you back, talking about your success, and congratulations on one of the most innovative business ideas that has come up on the Challenger podcast. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks for having me, Jerome. It's great what you do here.